Good evening, folks. I've been trying to record this video for 4 or 5 times now. This is about the fifth time recording. I keep cocking up on it. Oh, anyway, good evening from Wirral. It's been a lovely day here today. I've had a nice lazy day. I've been doing a little bit of went shopping this morning, been in the gym this afternoon to throw a few weights down, and helps me think and sort out a few things in my head. So why am I online tonight? Well, I thought something's come up after last week's elections, and I suppose it is political, but it's not political, which sounds a bit strange, but I'll explain. Fracking. So, as we all know, or most of us should know, Reform are climate change deniers. They say climate change is false, it doesn't exist. I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. I come from a family of farmers, and I've got historical evidence talking to my dad, my granddad, them talking to their dads and granddads, etc., relatives. And for them, they said the change in climate, certainly my dad and my granddad, in the last 40 years has been incredible. You know, winters used to be winters, summers were summers, as you say. And now it's sort of the winters aren't, you get the odd cold spell, but there's nothing like there used to be, as I remember when I was a kid. And then we don't get the long hot summers anymore. We tend to get a few hot spells and quite a bit of rain, because it's the UK. And that's a big joke. Ryan Pinnock was doing it the couple of events I was at last week. And he's a South African, right? He said, I don't know why I've moved here. There's so much rain and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what he associates with. But it didn't used to be like that. It used to be rain, but summers were summers, spring was, the seasons were very definitive. For me, that has definitely changed. So if it's not climate change, what is it? I don't believe it's just a cycle. I think it's, for me, climate change is real. So what is fracking? And, why is it something I'm concerned about personally? Something maybe you should be concerned about. What's it got to do with property investment? I will come to that. Promise you have to bear with me a little bit. So for those who don't know, fracking is a way of extracting oil, gas from shale deposits deep underground, and it's otherwise known as hydraulic fracturing. So basically what they do is they pump a solution of water, sand and toxic chemicals into the ground, which fractures the shale layers and opens them up, and the sand holds these layers open and allows them to easier extraction of oil and gas. So what's the big problem with it? Well, the big problem with it is the wastes that comes with it, to be honest with you, and that. So the process involves drilling into the earth and injecting high pressure mixture. What happens afterwards? Well, this is the problem, really. So the wastewater, and it uses one of the problems is this uses a huge volume of water. So if you're in, it can put a drain on local water supplies, demand. So, and being a corporate thing, or corporate institution, these people are the last people to get banned from using water, by the way, in a water shortage, because they pay for it. So they're the last people to get banned. So while you've got your hose pipe ban and whatever, they're still busy fracking away. And it can use millions of gallons of water, contributing to local droughts. So the mix of chemicals, they are toxic, and they don't always fully disclose what they're using. There can be accidental spills and leaks, and this can contaminate surface and groundwater. And this threatens drinking water supplies and local ecosystems. Now, the wastewater from fracking often contains high levels of salts, heavy metals, and radioactive materials. It's typically injected into deep wells, so they actually push this into the ground, inject it into the ground, which risks leaks and further contamination of water supplies and ecosystems. It releases methane and other toxic, noxious elements such as benzene, which is a carcinogen, nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, which can also be carcinogens. The methane is especially concerning as it's a major contributor to greenhouse gases, whether you believe in climate change or not. The science says it exists, and this is one of the things. Local air quality can deteriorate, increasing risks to respiratory health and other issues for nearby residents. So spills from fracking can actually degrade the quality of the soil, and it can harm local vegetation, and it can actually affect the productivity of agricultural land. And then you've got the seismic problem, which is one of the main reasons why the government has put back in, I think it was 2019, put a moratorium on fracking. Stopped it dead, that's it, we're not doing it anymore. Because of the concerns that were raised in a report. So the disposal of fracking wastewater by injection into deep wells has been linked to increased seismic activity, including minor earthquakes. I don't know how to, I know it's definitely been linked to seismic activity. I'm not sure about the minor earthquakes side of it, but this is what my research is throwing up. Some regions, and we're talking majorly the US, because the US does a lot of fracking. It's been very controversial in the US and South America. I know they did fracking in Colombia, and Colombia just banned it because of concerns over it. So some areas have noticed an uptick in tremors following expansion of fracking operations. Again, this was why the UK government said, and don't forget, this wasn't Labour government, this was a Tory government, said, hang on, moratorium on it. Now, strangely enough, Andrea Jenkins, who won the Lincolnshire mayoral race, stated that she's going to start approaching fracking companies about fracking in Lincolnshire, totally forgetting that the government, the party she used to work for, put a moratorium on it. So you can't do it, Andrea. Have fun enjoying talking to those fracking companies. Sorry, I get a little bit political. Didn't mean to. And then there's social impacts such as the rapid influx of workers needed. It can be beneficial. It can bring jobs in, but it can also bring like a boom and bust cycle as well. So once the oil gas is exhausted from the shale, because it's not a limited supply, there is a finite amount there. It goes away, and you can leave displaced people. You can see all sorts of economic problems afterwards with people have been relying on this industry. I mean, we've seen this in, take the mill industry, the cotton industry, for example. Up in Greater Manchester area, we've seen the boom or bust cycle there, which used to be a great amount of mill activity and stuff like that, and now it's gone. Caused a lot of problems economically up there. It's the same, with the mining and stuff like that. So you're seeing where the mines used to be. Strangely enough, in Durham is one of the main things. Northeast, boom and bust again. Mining communities have been left. Mines closed down, and all of a sudden, no one's got a job, etc. So you've got to think about that as well. And it can cause major division in communities. I mean, I live in Wirral, and before the moratorium, there were companies looking to do a type of fracking. I think it was called oil coal gasification, but it's a type of fracking in the Dee Estuary, and the Dee Estuary is I think it's a site of scientific interest, SSI. It's renowned for its wading birds, etc. It's a beautiful place, and the locals, it didn't divide the community, it actually brought them together, because whether you were left, right, or in the middle, they didn't want fracking on the doorstep. And that's the other thing. Communities don't necessarily want it. The person who owns the land might want it because they can earn a lot of money out of it, so there's a benefit there. If you have to own land and the company says, can we do fracking on your land, they'll pay you a nice lot of money. But as we've seen with the protests going back, maybe 10 years, I suppose, something like that, 8-10 years, there were a lot of protests around, a lot of people really, really totally against it. It's a divisive subject, certainly, but here it wasn't. It actually brought the community together. No one wanted it. So that, and then, sorry, I keep going off on a tangent, I know, I apologise, but that's just me. You have to accept me as I am. And then there's concerns about the exposure to toxic chemicals, air pollutants. Don't forget, some of these things are carcinogenic. Benzene certainly is, and some of the other chemicals. The presence of fracking can polarize communities, we just talked about, creating division between those who support the economic benefits and those who fear the environmental damage it may cause. The economic effects, like I said, you've got the boom or bust, the boom and bust, sorry. So while it's happening, your local economy it can have a real positive effect on it. But afterwards, when it's all finished and they go away, you can be left with that down period where people are suddenly haven't got jobs. The businesses that were relying on it suddenly haven't got that custom anymore. So there's a lot of risks there. So why should property investors be concerned about it? Well, this is why. There is positive and negative to it, and I'll try and give you both. I'll give you the positive ones first. And it's pretty similar to the economic boost can stimulate local economies, creating jobs. In the energy sector, related industry, increased demand for housing, potentially driving up property values in some areas. But don't forget, it might displace locals as well. So it might be really great you've got Airbnbs, but it might displace a lot of local people and cause a lot of anger that way. Royalties and lease payments, I think I briefly mentioned that before. Property owners who allow fracking on their land may receive royalty payments or lease income, increasing their overall income. So, there's a benefit there. However, there are negative impacts, and you should know about these as well, really. There is also potential property value decline. Studies suggest fracking activity can negatively affect property values, particularly for homes near fracking sites. Same as coal mines, it's a similar thing. This is the new coal mine, the fear of investing near coal mine sites. This is the new fear. So near fracking sites or those reliant on groundwater as well. Don't forget, fracking uses a vast amount of water. It has to come from somewhere. It comes from your groundwater. Groundwater contamination, concerns about potential groundwater contamination from fracking can reduce property values. Proximity to wells, properties very close to fracking wells, may experience a decline in value due to the visual impact, noise, and increased traffic. And then you've got the environmental concerns. But it's not just that. People tend not to want to live by these sites. So you might struggle to get tenants or flip the houses over if you're trying to increase them. You might buy it, they put a fracking site in there and the value goes down and you're stuck with something you paid too much for. And the big thing for me, mortgage and insurance challenges. So we all know in coal mining areas there can be an insurance challenge, building insurance challenge, depending on how near you are to the fracking site or the wastewater thing, the wastewater well. And mortgage companies won't like it, so they might not lend on it. And this hasn't been explored yet. So there are pluses and minuses to it. Yes, if you've got Airbnbs and you've got rentals in the right area, you might get a lot more tenants and a great short-term boost to your income. And if you're a landowner, you might get a boost to your income from royalties and lease payments. However, if you're just a landlord who's renting properties out, tenanted, and you're doing property investment as a business, you're relying on building insurance and you're struggling to get that, the premiums go up because you're closer to a fracking site. The mortgage lender turns around and says, not lending you any. You buy a fracking site or a wastewater well. All of a sudden you've got problems. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well. I think I'll leave it there for now. So let's start a conversation on it. Pros and cons for property investors. Tell me your thoughts on it. Whether you're for or against it and the reasons why you're for or against it as well. So I hope that's a little bit of interest for you. I hope you got a bit of information out of it. Don't forget to subscribe to my podcast, Efficiency in Property Investing. New episode out at midnight. Please like, subscribe. I'll throw a link in the comments below. And keep moving forward.